am Paran. I have been working at Malabad Anatolian High School for 3 years. I am from Sivan. I want to show you my presentation. It's about going beyond the grammar, developing English learners' interest through LL-based activities, and its digital symposium on linguistic landscapes in set of language teaching and learning contexts. Outline of the presentation, the target group, practicing LL-based activities, students' photos, linguistic landscapes, benefits of LL-based activities, students' opinions, and conclusion. Our target group is 12th grade English classroom in Silvan. The goal was to increase learners' familiarity with the structure rules and raise their interest towards English through LL-based activities. The number of my students is 15, but students who had internet connection and who haven't smartphones couldn't attend the class. So the lesson was taught for only 6 students. Actually, my students have difficulty when they learn English grammatical rules and structures. So in the beginning of the class, multiple pictures exemplifying modal verbs were displayed, and later they were shared with the students. After that, students compared the LL-based resources with the appropriate structural items and practiced their English through this way. We focused on modal verbs. First, students were given these signs and should or shouldn't structure rules. They were supposed to answer the question with their real hands by using their signs. For example, when their answer is should, they show this sign. When their answer is shouldn't, they show only this sign. They don't speak. Okay. Bridging our mind with the colors. This activity symbolizes different modal verbs. For example, orange is can, blue is don't have to, yellow is must, purple is should, and green is may. Students practiced again through this bridging our mind with colors activity. The teacher asked the question and students were silent. However, they answered the question with the color cards or real life objects. When they answer is can, they show orange. When they answer is must, they show yellow. When they answer is don't have to, they show blue. And when they answer is may, they show green, like that. Okay, these are my students' photos from our lesson. Okay, these findings are my students' findings about modal verbs. First picture is preferences. For example, prefer, would you like, rather than, would rather, like that. Second is do you mind and would you mind. The lion symbolize their chew. Third picture symbolize use it to, and the last is had better. Okay, this picture were given to students and they made sentences according to these linguistic landscapes with must and mustn't. Arriving our goal, these photos are also my students' findings. First possibility is symbolize may and might. Accept and reject symbolize must and mustn't. We can do symbolize can, be able to, and could. The last chart, strongest and weakest, it symbolizes strongest and weakest of modal verbs. Okay, these pictures are also students' findings. First is prohibition, it's with must, and Have to. It is difference. The second picture, it's difference between must and have to. Must is personal duties and have to obligation to help others. Okay, this picture were given to students and they try to find which models would appear. For example, they say might, might, will, could, must be supposed to like that. From present to past, actually, this photo identifies past form or present models. For example, must have been, can't have been, could have been, might have been, and the balloons identifies their meanings. Okay, what were the benefits of LL-based activities for the students? Students notice structural rules and raise their interests. Students are provided with real-life examples featuring model structures through such activities. And language was not only a tool, but also it included many different areas such as cultural elements. Students' opinions. LL-based activities stimulated them to model structural rules. They overcame the difficulty that they had when they learned grammatical rules. They could easily recognize the structures thanks to the linguistic landscapes, and they realized that language is not only an academic tool, it also involves real-life contexts. Okay, in conclusion, actually, I acquired very spectacular information with this project. Using examples of L-based resources and activities makes my lesson easier and more enjoyable. Motivating students with this method is extraordinary, and they both became language learners and researchers. They can connect the content of classroom lessons and linguistic landscapes, and teaching grammar rules with linguistic landscapes is more enjoyable, is more interesting for me. Thank you for listening to me.